Eat, Bumpy said, sliding the plate of ribs across the table. June 10th, 1963, Small's Paradise. The restaurant was crowded, shoulder to shoulder, but everyone understood what was unfolding at table 7. The man sitting opposite Bumpy was trembling so badly he could barely grip his fork. He was the same man who had told the Italians where Bumpy's cash houses were, who helped the Genovese push into Harlem, who grew rich while Bumpy counted days behind the walls of Alcatraz. "I said eat," Bumpy repeated. This time his hand drifted toward his waistband, because this was his final meal. Marcus "Smooth" Henderson had ruled Harlem like it belonged to him for 11 years. Every Tuesday and Friday night, he held court at Small's Paradise on 135th and 7th Avenue, the crown jewel of black nightlife in 1963. Smooth always sat at table 7 in the back corner, surrounded by his crew, sipping French cognac and eating the best ribs in New York City. He wore Italian suits that cost $400, drove a midnight blue Cadillac Eldorado, and lived in a penthouse near Mount Morris Park with a view stretching towards Central Park. He had 40 men on payroll, 5 policy banks running numbers across Harlem, and the Genovese family's approval to operate as long as he paid his weekly tribute. Smooth built all of it on the groundwork Bumpy Johnson left behind, the connections, the structure, the respect. He took everything Bumpy created and claimed it as his own. And for 11 years, while Bumpy rotted in Alcatraz, Smooth slept easily until June 7th, 1963. That was the day Bumpy walked out of Alcatraz, carrying everything he owned in a paper bag. He was 56, hair touched with gray now, 11 years older, but his eyes still carried that cold, calculating calm that unsettled strong men. Bumpy didn't go home when he reached New York. He didn't embrace his wife. He didn't rest after the 3-day train ride from San Francisco. He went straight to Junie Bird's apartment on 145th Street. Junie was waiting, 63 years old, gray-haired, loyal to his last breath. "Give me names," Bumpy said, not even taking a seat. Junie already had the list. He'd spent 11 years watching, listening, keeping score. He named 15 men who got rich while Bumpy was locked away, men who carved up his territory like he was never coming back. But one name made Bumpy's jaw tighten: Marcus Henderson. Smooth had once been Bumpy's protege, a sharp young hustler from 118th Street. Bumpy took under his wing back in 1947. Bumpy taught him the numbers game, showed him how to run policy banks, introduced him to the right people, protected him when remnants of Dutch Schultz's crew came looking for revenge. When Bumpy was arrested in 1952 on conspiracy charges, he trusted Smooth to keep things together, to take care of the organization, to send money to his wife. For 2 years, Smooth did just that. Then the money stopped. The letters stopped. And according to Junie, Smooth cut a deal with Vito Genovese. He gave up the locations of Bumpy's policy banks, named which cops were on Bumpy's payroll, revealed where the cash houses were. In return, the Italians let Smooth keep 125th Street for himself. Bumpy spent 11 years in Alcatraz thinking about that betrayal, 11 years planning what would follow. "Where does he eat?" Bumpy asked. "Small's Paradise," Junie replied. "Every Friday night, table 7, 9 o'clock sharp." Bumpy checked his watch. It was Friday, 6 p.m. "Get me a table right next to him." At 8:45 p.m., Small's Paradise was filling fast. The weekend crowd poured in. Hustlers, musicians, working folks spending their pay on good food and cold beer. A 3-piece jazz combo warmed up in the corner. Waiters weaved through the room carrying trays of fried chicken, collard greens, and cornbread. At 8:50 p.m., Bumpy Johnson walked in. He wore the same charcoal gray suit he'd had on during the train ride from California, worn and tired. His shoes were scuffed, no visible weapon. He looked like a ghost, Harlem's past stepping into its present. The room didn't fall silent, but conversations shifted. Eyes followed him as he moved through the crowd. Older heads recognized him instantly. Younger hustlers who only knew the legends whispered to each other, "That's Bumpy Johnson. I thought he was dead. He got out of Alcatraz 3 days ago." Bumpy walked straight to table 8, right beside table 7. Junie Bird was already there, along with Willie Fish Jackson and Raymond Quick Lewis. 3 old-timers who stayed loyal. 3 men who remembered Harlem when Bumpy ran it. Bumpy sat with his back to the wall, facing the entrance, an old habit that never left him. Never sit with your back to the door. At exactly 9 p.m., Marcus "Smooth" Henderson walked in. He was 38 now, dressed in a cream-colored suit with a burgundy tie, diamond rings flashing on 3 fingers, gold watch shining under the lights. 4 bodyguards followed him, men who looked well-fed and confident. Smooth laughed loudly, holding court, acting like he owned the place. In a way, he did. Or at least he owned the protection that kept Small's Paradise free from police trouble. Smooth headed toward table 7, then froze. The color drained from his face. His bodyguards noticed immediately and followed his stare. When they saw Bumpy Johnson sitting there, calm as a Sunday morning, their hands slid toward their waistbands. Bumpy didn't move. He just stared at Smooth with those cold, empty eyes. "Marcus," Bumpy said quietly, his voice carrying across the room, "come sit with me." It wasn't a request. One of the guards, a thick-necked enforcer named Leon, stepped forward. "Mr. Henderson, don't—" Junie Bird stood up. He looked harmless at 63, but the .45 automatic in his hand said otherwise. "Sit down," Junie said softly. Suddenly, guns were everywhere. Smooth's guards had hands inside their jackets. Junie held his .45 steady. Willie Jackson pulled a sawed-off shotgun from beneath the table. Quick Lewis aimed a revolver straight at Leon's chest. The room froze. The jazz combo stopped playing. Waiters backed toward the kitchen. Customers ducked under tables. Bumpy Johnson didn't even blink. "Tell your boys to go home, Marcus," Bumpy said. "This talk is between you and me." Smooth's mouth opened and closed, his hands shaking. He looked at the guns, then at Bumpy's terrifying calm. "Go," Smooth whispered. "Boss," Leon started. "I said go." The guards backed toward the door, weapons still half drawn, eyes fixed on Junie's .45. They didn't want to leave, but they didn't want to die at Small's Paradise on a Friday night either. When they were gone, Bumpy nodded toward the empty chair. "Sit." Marcus Henderson sat. Bumpy signaled a waiter. The young man approached nervously. "Bring us a plate of ribs," Bumpy said. "The good ones, and 2 bourbons." The waiter nearly ran. The room was silent now. 250 people frozen, watching table 8 like it was a stage. Even the kitchen stopped cooking. Everyone knew what this was. The food arrived, ribs steaming, sauce glistening, bourbon poured. The waiter vanished. Bumpy slid the plate toward Smooth. "Eat." Smooth stared at the ribs like they were poison. "I'm not hungry, Bumpy. I can explain." "Eat," Bumpy said again, "because this is your last meal." That's when Smooth understood. This wasn't negotiation. This wasn't discussion. It was judgment, delivered publicly. "Bumpy, please," Smooth said, voice breaking. "I had to survive. You were gone. The Italians were taking everything." "You made a deal to save yourself," Bumpy replied. "You gave them my banks, my people, my roots. You kept the money meant for my wife." Tears ran down Smooth's face. "I was going to fix it, I swear." "I've been home 3 days," Bumpy said. "You didn't come see me, didn't send word, didn't send money." Bumpy leaned closer. "You thought I was never coming back." "I'll give it all back," Smooth pleaded. "The money, the streets." "I'm not taking it back from you," Bumpy said. "I'm taking it back from you." Bumpy's hand went to his waistband, not for a gun, but for a straight razor, the same one he'd carried since 1935, the same blade that once opened Dutch Schultz's enforcer ear to ear, the same blade that convinced Lucky Luciano to let Bumpy run Harlem his way. He unfolded it slowly, steel catching the light. "You know what the Romans did to traitors?" Bumpy asked. "They fed them, then punished them in public." Smooth hyperventilated, eyes locked on the blade. "I'm not Rome," Bumpy continued, "but I am Harlem." He raised his voice so everyone could hear. "When I went away, some of you forgot who built this, forgot these streets, forgot that respect isn't taken, it's earned." He looked back at Smooth. Marcus Henderson forgot. Bumpy stood. Smooth tried to bolt, but Junie was behind him instantly, gun pressed to his spine. "Stand up," Bumpy ordered. Smooth stood, legs shaking. Bumpy stepped close, face to face with his betrayer. Then, before the eyes of the entire restaurant, he lifted the razor to Smooth's cheek, not to kill, to mark. One quick slice, thin and clean. Blood spilled, staining the cream suit. Smooth screamed. "That's so you remember," Bumpy said calmly. "Every mirror will remind you." He folded the razor away. "You have 24 hours to leave Harlem. Take what you can carry. If I see you after tomorrow night, I won't be kind." Bumpy turned to the room. "Bumpy Johnson is back. The rules haven't changed. Pay what you owe. Keep your word. Protect your people." He walked out of Small's Paradise at 9:47 p.m., June 10th, 1963, leaving Marcus Henderson bleeding at Table 7 and 250 witnesses who would spread the story by morning. By sunrise, Harlem knew the king had returned. Smooth was on a bus to Philadelphia by noon. He never came back. The scar became his brand. Within 72 hours, 3 other men who claimed Bumpy's territory vanished, not dead, just gone. The Genovese sent a captain to talk. The meeting lasted 4 minutes. Bumpy's terms were simple. North of 110th Street was his, non-negotiable. They left without argument. Within 6 months, Bumpy's empire was his again, not through war, but through fear, respect, and precision. That night at Small's Paradise became legend. People still talk about how Bumpy needed no speeches, no army, just a razor, a room full of witnesses, and unshakable authority. You can lock a man away for 11 years. You can steal his money and his streets. But you can't take his throne if he's a real king. Bumpy Johnson proved that power isn't about guns. It's about respect. And respect is earned through loyalty, intelligence, and the will to do what others won't when the moment demands it.